Who's that peeking through my soul? Who's that peeking through my soul? Who's that peeking through my? Who's that peeking through my? Who's that peeking through my soul? I don't want to be glued to the regiment and the realignment your engagement. It was a Murrow projected the right to the front line for the age. Reactions and actions and activate events. Such, you'd be the tree for the forest and like that blends of fire sticks. Illuminated for the celebratory occasions, enchanting your disparity. Conclusion, consider for the offensive in your course of the cordially complain about complaints. Complacency, completely complimenting for the complex and content. Controversy, contrive for the contribute. There are tribes that drive for the violent too. Ways of wine parties and parting, parcelling and celebrating. Celibate for the deliberates and liberals. It was a template of sin, insinuating the intermittent food for thought, for we waited for the understanding and wait. What was lost to be found, for the after to be the Olive Garden, and you could find an applying an eye for the Applebee's and the pollinated, the innate interpretation without the fooling and the feeling, the spirit for the mystical timeline for the timeouts and the truth, the historical oracles and the history, only the versions, the nutrients in the alphabetical order, there may be the alpha and the megas and the omens in the ribcage. Beat that creative, the enrich of the poor for the quality poetry. Baby back for the, you can find that for the dying, the sanctuary. Inspire the spirit into that unto to make it so long alone. And they'll find it not alone for the offering. The benevolence and non-violent for the not for the fine, the criminally acting, but the tip of the templates. Esoteric, be still that be told with the dot to the between meals of righteousness, and literate for the old hooper fed for the melons. Manipulate the population to control lives. Truly stand outside those lines of space and time. We find those who won't stop it to tell the time to stop watching words. We digest the gestures just in case the heart burn. World's biggest heart blade is above low belt foul blade. Plagiarism. Play the part. What do you mean? What do you mean I mean? What did I say? How did you take what I said? I mean it only one way. The way I said it. When all fails to meet the standard. When all fails to meet the standard. I know. When all fails to meet the standards. Instead of distillers, wait till the awakening and deprivation. The thought that who was the ride that declares for the bond for the presence of the light, for the depth of the darkness to be illuminated with the shine of all nights to sunrise. Summer nights to the under the moon to define that glow, to define the earth. It's a nocturnal condition to seek the conversation for the new day with the gratitude, the coordinating and moving with the significant woody. I am the world as it were. Maybe been able to know to overlook the underlying the truth. And this is the foundation of life, and no sequel to no game for no sequence to find the patterns of everyone. What do you mean? How could that be true? How do you really know? How can you tell? I don't want to explain. Painty past and parting with particularly comparison, competing, competition, coming to grips with realization, gathering innate ideas for the faith for the fusion, grasping expansion and knowledge and knowing how to make the picture the figure, how to learn, expanding expertise, expressive basic and steps to stones, stoners in authenticity, hands dirty with the grime and distasteful, grammar of the tongue to be displayed and displaced for the replacing of perfect, perfecting instead of perfection, objective on course of reacting, response are those of streaming straight to the timelines without engagement of habits. Habitual thinking around about repetition to make and not to make sense and not for the what is ability. Liable to tell the truth in time, the frame for the memory. Infused is con being confusing enough for the fusing. Spontaneous reaction to heat for the energy, reluctant to not to feel that body for the sentiments. For the nose to the sense of the brain. To the braille scale for the weight for the friction of the frame. Ways to compromise in this adventure. Incentive for the events of the course, that's to be the control, which is added of a court. Control over the divine presence and the presence are predominantly dominated for the famished. Elements are not a commission with the growing pains. Sprout for the doubts and crop that after the proportions. Instead of that to distort the color for the offering. The station never minded for the slow beats of the punishment and enslave that for the justice for forgery. Forgiveness, prick that prick of science and combine companies to compare paragraphs. Parallels are really spoken potent. The provocative and pronouns, and script what that was described to be is only distracting disaster. This is simply your cognitive thinking that provoked the evidence from the revealing, relevance for the disengagement, and of course it's deprived for the detriment for the final, fatality for the fatally, a trap attributable, and maybe the outcome to the coming out of the closet is set to grant the opening, opposed to position and encompass, and coming every time for the hands to strike the number for the ending, the outcry that lashes the outcast to the state to the growth for the spur for the criminal, and I which with the grip with the containment. Areas arrive that for the settlement for the departure apart, that for the apparatus and the rated regional residents and resigning for the responsibility required by for the reform, retaining and rhetoric review. I can find a reactionary grits by being glued to that regiment.
What? What do you mean? What do you mean I mean?
You don't want to do that.
What did I say? But
I don't really want to tell you what to do.
I mean it only one way.
You don't want to follow that shepherd.
The way I said it.
You're shipped to shape that fit for the awareness, critique for the participant, the front of mirrors, gray grounds and backgrounds, and the back talk for the backstab, and ever for the bleeding the backstage, and audience to believe this really over. They showed up, shop at the show, no ordinance, finance for the finale, competence for the compete. For your conversation that will completely enable you afford the tactics or interest of what you're interested in for the greedy game show, or the greatest show on earth for no circumstances for the circus and no energy for the circulation, the circular box. No seats to fit that criteria, the critics. It's the critique that belongs to the boutique, and the botox with the bows and bows and eyebrows, and that flow off the face, and it's the fact for the false, and the front of the fault pain, dying for the dehydrate, for the at any rate, so you can hide that hate, exactly as the big spark in the attention of the dim those lights. It was the day that diary day, the death, the eating and the letters and the paperback covers and the piggy banks and the break the wallet, and the break up of the reality with the relationship that sunk with the water, it was shut off from the cold to the end of the high window. Tape to prove the innocent for the innocent and the money for the end of the case. That briefly you can find the briefcase, carry that away, waits the time to me for the count, the money for the I, executed for the exit, not the accept. The kind in you, concept, the deception, the decency, deceit, the decent, to the sentence of the century, sense of glory, perfume, that human get to something for the something. Now to the words to gather together for the newest part, partially living with the partition and partition, the people that participate for the entire entities that is enticing, and kind of make it losing their season. Championships and chimpanzees, so that champagne the thumbs and numbs the pain for the champ, the happy drink, the rain for the anticipated for the staff, for the things and claims of life for the clan for the span. Not the emails of the patriarchal letter for the spells of those casted. Program to the program to the advertisers of the instant waiting. Instagram pictures for the breastfeeding for those who are breathtaking. You can protest that ignorance and the negotiated rants and these to be some rules, kids and boots and relate to the boots and poop. The pictures would have got me drunk for the under the in and out over the getting and spinning and out of the order, but didn't have to all. Neither of them all for the negate. Negative emotion to abbreviate. Those apps to negotiate the notions and notices that note was the when he left down and I thought for there was the hole over there for the scheming and the skepticism. Remember the scar faces, the karma for the circulating the current curriculum and the correspond that for the ducks in the water like a bitch of the poop out of it. Ain't gonna hardly be your thug at the mall. You're the mom for the baller for the elaborate for the 11 like it was the plan, the hangman for the hungover for the dry humor for the human and the middleman for the human being, animal style, drag through not for the long ass line for the man in the north for the car for the French fries, and you can find your French kiss them thighs. I for the church, chick for the church, and serves a special death for me, after that for the serpent for the service of the surgery, certain circumstances circumcised, certain come into the circumstances, and you stand in between for the weekends and windows of opportunity.
A strange encounter. What are we gonna do?
A strange encounter.
A strange encounter. What are we gonna do about it? What do you mean? A strange encounter. What are we gonna do about it? I can't guarantee nothing. I'll be at that corner looking for the fish store. Maybe you carry that cargo, following me wherever carry go. I wanna be the couple of like a parallel for the key. Asking me for the band, particular for the figure that equate to the vacation. Dig it. Sucked like vacuums to evacuate. Evaluated for the evil is evaluated. Devastated for the statement that she was meant to faith is sacred. Sacrament for the mention of man, attention to tear. Tint the windows to blind eye for the seeker. It seems to sight for the short, for the shy, for the guy that never crushed and couldn't wait for the tail for another second. That clock for the last shot, for the rebound, for the hunter, for the hunt, that catch up, for the fast food, for the French fry to revolution, to revoke the westernized constitutes the consideration to the rations, clothes for the sound of hearings, courthouse that noise for the corduroys, and courtrooms there for the dressing, language for the salad talk, for the measure them croutons and the weight like procrastinated, the case, the cast, the guard, the hate, the worst, the which, the worst, the hate, for the destination, the faith, for the fatality, for the alleys, allies and lies and dancing all the lazy around the square. All states and all mine for the fire, the money, for the alimony, for the before that celebrating with the celibate for the noble, the dictating, the masturbate. Catfish behind those shallow waters and battered that for the fish of the boner, for the boneless and the hollow heart, for the fillet, for the Italian late night and the linger, finger in between that, like it was a loser. You don't want to lose that finger. It would be between that for the only smart winner. It was her for the win, her for the window. That winter went and whenever ever. Devers and severely separating for the race of the rat through the rhetoric and the rivals and get that for the revenge of vegans and vegans. Been around to the beef and that was opposing your opinion for the initially compliments and the complaint for the complicated to the compel. Communication to come on like the commas and meant to be calming down. Calm down for the companies to be alone. Store that stock in stock shit. You shattered the shattered glass and glossary of lips and looked up what you can call the stuck up. Struck down by the man for the manipulates. Manipulate for the early catcher worm, catch a fade. Catch code, catch later, catch situation that you got caught up down. For the download, for the laundry, the clean money for the money, and how many more money mics so you can micromanage. Microdosage to one dose like an anticon, and why it became cloud dead societies and social websites. To the blind for the leading, the dumbfounded for the claim. Should be the climatic victorious. This is the eye for the iris and the risk of suicide for the side of the settlements. What's meant to be settled for the bill collectors and the assholes and callers and the fool that hate the fool, the broken, the fine, and shit for the fat, for the government, for the babysit, the Babylon. Babylonians and the iron gate for the slaughterhouse of sheep, the ship, the shape. Fit to that awareness for the critique, the participants, and the members and backgrounds that talk.
At that corner, looking for the thrift store. Maybe you carry that cargo. Follow me wherever I wanna be the captain like a paragraph. Ask me for the pen, take it for the paper, like you wait to the vacation. Suck like vacuums to evacuate. Evaluated for the evil, evaluated that stated for the statement that she was meant to faith is sacred. Sacrifice for the mention of man, the teachings of tear. Tent the windows blind after the secret. It seems to sight for the short, for the shy, for the guy that never crushed and couldn't wait for the tail for another second. That clock for the last shot, for the rebound, for the hunter, for the hunt, that catch up, for the fast food, for the French fry to revolution, to revoke the westernized constitutes and consideration to the rations, clothes for the sound of hearings, courthouse that noise for the corduroys, and courtrooms there for the dressing, language for the salad talk, for the measure them croutons and the weight like procrastinated, the case, the cast, the guy, the hate, the worst, the which, the worst, the hate, for the destination, the faith, for the fatality, for the alleys, allies and lies and dancing all the lazy around for the square. All states and all mine for the fire, the money, for the alimony, for the before that celebrating with the celibate for the nova, the dictating, the masturbate. Catfish behind those shallow waters and batter that for the fish of the boner, for the boneless and the hollow heart, for the fillet, for the Italian late night, and the linger, finger in between that, like it was a loser. You don't want to lose that finger. It'll be between that for the only smart winner. It was her for the win, her for the window. That winter went and whenever ever. Devers and severely separating for the race of the rat, for the rhetoric and the rivals, and get that for the revenge of vegans and vegans. Been around to the beef, that was opposing your opinion for the initially compliments and the complaint for the complicated to the compel. Communication to come on like the comments and meant to be calming down. Calm down for the companies to be alone. Store that stock in stock shit. You shattered the shattered glass and glossary of lips and looked up what you can call the stuck up. Struck down by the man for the manipulate for the early catcher worm, catch a fade. Catch code, catch later, catch situation that you got caught up down. For the download, for the laundry, for the clean money, for the money, and how many more money mics so you can micromanage. Microdosage to one dose like an anticon. And why I became cloud dead, so societies and social websites. To the blind for the leading, the dumbfounded for the claim. Should be the climatic authorities. This is the eye for the iris, and this is suicide for the side of settlements. What's meant to be settled for the bill collectors and the assholes and cauldrons and cool that ate the fool, the movement and violent shit for the fed, for the government, for the babysit, the Babylon. Babylonians and the Aeolon gate for the slaughterhouse of sheep, the ship that shape. 50 dead burners for the critique, the participants in front of mirrors and backgrounds that talk. Two backs that. all fails to meet the standards. When all fails to meet the standards. When all fails to meet When all fails to meet the standards. Sit at the stillest. Wait till the awakening and deprivation of thought. Who was derived to the that declare to the pond for the presence of the light, for the depth of the darkness to be illuminated, to shine upon that's to summarize. Summer nights to the under the moon, to define that glow, to define the directions, to nocturnal condition, to seek the compensation for the new day with the gratitude, the coordinating and moving with a significant way. I have the world and asking, or maybe been able to own it, to overlook it, to underline the truth, and this is the foundation of life, and there's no sequence to no game for no sequence to define the patterns and turmoil. What do you mean? How could that be true? How do you really know? How can you tell? I don't want to explain. Painting pants and parting with, particularly comparison, competing, competition, coming to grips, realization, gathering innate ideas for the faith, for the fusion, grasping expansion of knowledge and knowing how to make the picture, the figure, how to learn, expand and expertise, express the basic and steps to stones, stoners in authenticity, hands dirty with the grime and distasteful, grammar of the tongue to be displayed and displaced for the replacing of perfect, perfecting instead of perfection, objective on course of reacting, response are those that streaming straight to the timelines without engagement of habits. Habitual thinking around about repetition to make and not to make sense and not for the what is ability. Liable to tell the truth in time, the frame for the memory. Infuses con being confusing enough for the fusing. Spontaneous reaction to heat for the energy, reluctant to not to feel that body for the sentiments. For the nose to the sense of the brain. To the braille scale for the weight for the friction of the frame. Ways to compromise in this adventure. Incentive for the events of the course. So that's to be the control, which is out of accord. Control over the divine presence and the presence are predominantly dominated for the famished. Elements are not a commission for the growing pains. Sprout for the doubts and crop that after proportions. Instead of that to distort the color for the offering and station never minded for the slow beats of the punishment and enslaved that for the justice for forging. Forgiveness, prick that prick of science and combine companies to compare paragraphs. Parallels and really spoken poked with provocative pronouns and scribble what that was described to be as only distracting, disaster, and disassembling no cognitive thinking and provoke to evidence on the revealing, relevance for the disengagement and intercourse is deprived and detrimental for the final, fatality for the fatally, a trap natural, or maybe the outcome to the coming out of the closet of the set to